The impact of World War II. How did the United States' role in the world expand after World War II ended? When World War II ended in 1945, the Allied nations celebrated. But for the United States, the victory represented more than just the defeat of the Axis powers. The nation was now the world's strongest military power, in possession of a fearsome new atomic weapon. America's role as a world superpower had begun. But a former ally would soon challenge American power. World War II had united leaders of democratic and communist countries to defeat common enemies, Germany, Italy, and Japan. In the waning days of the war, Allied leaders met in Yalta, a Black Sea resort town in the Soviet Union. There, the Big Three, United States President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and Soviet leader Joseph Stalin made plans for the post-war world. They agreed to divide Germany and its capital, Berlin, into 4 sectors to be administered by the 3 major allies and France. They also helped lay the groundwork for what was to become the United Nations. But despite these agreements, there was growing friction between Stalin and the other Allied leaders. They disagreed about what to do with Poland and several Eastern European countries that were occupied by the Soviets. Stalin wanted to create a bloc of Soviet-friendly communist nations. The other Allies wanted to establish democracies. Stalin agreed that free elections would be held in these countries following the war. But this was a promise he would later break. 3 months later, the war in Europe ended with Germany's surrender. Much of the continent was in ruins. The war had devastated cities, destroyed farms, and throughout the continent, hunger and poverty were widespread. The United States decided to aid European recovery, believing this would prevent the spread of communism to those countries devastated by war. Under the Marshall Plan, named after then Secretary of State George C. Marshall, the United States provided more than $13 billion to rebuild Western Europe. With the Marshall Plan and also the establishment of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, in 1949, the United States gained strong political support throughout Western Europe. Meanwhile, tension between the United States and the Soviet Union continued to escalate. The Soviets refused to allow the Eastern European nations under their control to participate in the Marshall Plan. At the heart of the conflict were Soviet opposition to capitalism and political liberty, and American opposition to communist totalitarianism. The European countries under Soviet control became known as the Iron Curtain, and the stage was set for a prolonged conflict known as the Cold War. The Cold War pitted the world's 2 superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, in a long and difficult contest for global power and influence. How did events after World War II lead to the beginning of the Cold War?